Hi, and welcome to Gary's Hobby Studio. And in this video, I'm going to go over some of the problems that I ran into with trying to set up inter-VLAN routing on the UniFi Switch. There's a way to do it, and if you already have some VLAN set up, because this applies to pfSense, not if you're using the UniFi like Dream Machine or their firewall gateway. This is if you're using pfSense on a piece of hardware or even a virtual machine, and you're trying to set up VLANs in pfSense. So let me go ahead and get started here. And I gotta enable that. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, so basically what it is that you come in here, you come to settings, and it'll show you all the networks and everything. You go up here to networks. Here's where you would create a new one. So you would create a new, you would select your router, whatever, if you might have given your switch a name, which I did. Third party is if you're going to let that router handle everything, but if you want to be able to do it internally, you have to select that. You would give the VLAN a name, and you would come down. You could set the IP. I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm not going to keep it. Then you would come down here, set to manual. You would change it from DHCP server unless you want this to handle the DHCP. Now, in the case of what I'm doing, I'm completely redoing my domain, and I'm having multiple VLANs to separate my services, so that way everything's not on my flat network. Because that's the way it was set up before I learned all this shit, because, I was like, hey, I could just create a domain, Windows domain. Because I'm changing from a .local to a .com so that I can do some other things. So in my case, I switched it to DHCP relay. Then you would add the servers, and I'm just going to make up, because again, I'm not going to hit save or anything. So we're going to go with 10, no, not that. 192.168. Because I'm going to hide all my other ones. 168 dot 90.11. You would hit add. If you had a secondary one, like if you had two servers, because it's basically what I'm going to have is two Windows domain controllers. So, the other one would be 192, if I wouldn't screw that up, dot 168 dot 90 dot we'll just call that one 12 and add. And then what will happen is that VLAN would then communicate with the domain controllers or whatever that you have that's running your DHCP, DNS, stuff like that. Then you would hit create, and I only created it just for that. And like I said, I'll hide everything else. So basically then, once you do that, it will create the inter-VLAN routing 4040, and it'll create this IP address of 10.255.253.0.24, which I'm going to manage because I'm just going to remove that test one, but that's just to basically show you that. So remove that, proceed. Okay. So now that that's done, what you would do now is you would switch over to your pfSense. You have to create the exact same VLAN to match it. So you would create a, VLAN, if you want to call it UniFi Switch routing, like I did. Attach it to whatever your main internet connection is. And it has to have the same number, 4040. You would come down here, you would set the IP addresses to .1. Now, here's the thing that will fuck you up. If you have any other VLANs, which I will show you my work computer's VLAN, okay? There is a, and it's actually not here in the interface, it's actually in the firewall rules. You would go to your firewall rules, go to your other VLANs. What you have to do, the one VLAN that controls going in, because when you set up the inter-VLAN routing on both the switch and what that is, you have to create other interfaces or other gateways. Sorry, let me correct that. Other gateways. And when that happens is then all of a sudden your devices that you want to separate, that I'm handling the work computers for when because my wife works from home, and that there, so that doesn't touch my network, doesn't touch my AD controllers and cause all kinds of funky issues, because it probably would because of their naming convention or their IP schemes. I have this set as a 192.x.x.x. Same thing with guest network IoT. But what you have to do is you have to go into the rules, and I'm going to blur it out so that way you guys don't get that. But you have to open the advanced options to show all this, come down to the gateway, and from the drop-down interface, select your WAN. I mean, I'll hide my IP, but you have to select the WAN DHCP so it knows to only go out through the WAN. Otherwise, stuff on the work computers can ping your internal stuff because there's more than one list. And when you have it set to the default here, it uses anything that's available. It's not specific, which you would think, but considering there's no way to, I mean, there probably is, but this is the only thing that I found to solve that problem, because I was able to ping stuff on it. It was able to ping stuff on mine. I was messing around with this for like 3 damn weeks or more. Okay. When I finally figured that out. So then once you select the WAN DHCP interface, you would hit save. I don't need to do it because it's already done. And then that'll stop that. Okay. And there's also other rules that you can add just to be on the safe side and stuff like that, like how I have in my rule set. Let me go back to, I can't go back because of the whole stupid, okay, well, that's cool. Drop back to that. But see, I added to avoid the LAN subnets, my Verizon modem, because I need it for the television guide, Wi-Fi guest, IoT. And then this way, that keeps them from communicating with each other. I also highly recommend adding this HTTPS here. And the best person to see all that would be, matter of fact, I could probably show you. Just in case if you don't have it, if you have other ones. So this way, they cannot access the web interface, because somebody pops a bad device, you really don't want to have that access to it. And I have to add the anti-lockout rule on that for mine. But that's a whole other thing, neither here nor there. But then you do this firewall, you know, you would have the interface, IPv4, TCP/IP, source any, HTTPS, the firewall itself. But you would have it set to block so that this way, anything gets on it, they can't get at the interface, even if they know what the interface IP address is. So then what you would do after you create the VLAN and everything, and I know I'm jumping around, I'm truly sorry about all that. You would come to routing, okay? And in the routing, you have to create a gateway. And the only reason why I can show you this is because you'll never see this because of the whole, you know, everything else will be blocked. But this is where you have to set it. You have to create a gateway. So what you would do is the VLAN interface ends in a .1, your gateway ends in a .2, and that's because that's what that switch would use. If you have more switches that you're going to create other VLANs on to do the same thing, then it would be a .3, .4, .5. Considering the fact is that, and I do have another switch which I will test that out on. Well, it's not a layer 3, so it's one of their first switches that I have that has a .2 on it, or that's layer 2. So anyways, you would create this IP address 10.255.253.2. Okay, then you would come back to routing, then you would go to static routes. Okay, and don't worry, I'm gonna block out all my IPs here when I go and edit this video before I upload it. But as you can see under the gateway, I'm selecting the gateway I created, switching, allow management to the internet, routing to the server VLAN, routing to the trusted devices, routing to the web apps, routing to the gaming, routing to the VMs, the test VMs VLAN. This way here, it knows how to get those devices out to the internet. Otherwise, it will not work. Because when I had the whole thing where I could ping back and forth, I still couldn't get out to the internet. Once I did this, and what you would do is you would set it back in the, and let me switch back to, well, I took it out. But whenever you create that VLAN, so it doesn't switch. Whenever you create that VLAN on the switch and it has that IP address, whenever I created that test one, it had 192.168.2.1, you would give it for the network internally. And here, we'll go ahead and add one so that way you can see me do it. Test, even though the fact is that it's not there, it should still work. I'm going to give it a 24. We're going to give it that. Description. And, oh, destination network. I'm sorry, I totally screwed that up. That's where you put the IP address in. So what you would do is 192.168.2.0, and then whenever you save it, and then you apply the changes. So what you'll see here is this way here, it knows to go to that because you never use 0 and 255 because those are the broadcasts. So you got to tell it 192.168.2.0, and then when it hits the switch, then it knows to go to that particular VLAN. Now again, I took it out because I wasn't going to leave it, knowing my brain I would forget. But this way here, you would create that, and then this way it knows to, if anything on that particular VLAN, you know, whatever you want to number, 2, 20, 100, whatever. Okay. That way it knows to send any computers that are on that VLAN, knows to send it out to the internet because of that gateway. And that's the thing. Now, the only thing I need to learn is how to restrict things through ACLs. And that's pretty much going to be probably a hit or miss type thing. And I might use the test VLAN to see how to limit that kind of stuff. And I might do a video on it if I can ever figure it out. But yeah, that took me like 3 weeks to figure all that shit out. And there's been like guides for things to add, like for telephones. And that's how I got most of, between UniFi's description on how to do it, which they didn't go far enough into it. I don't think Tom from Lawrence Systems I don't think Tom from Lawrence Systems has done anything like this, because I don't think this particular situation's come up. And I don't know. I mean, I never really looked, but I was trying to find an answer on it, and maybe I wasn't wording it correctly for the search engines, AI, and everything that I've used, and even YouTube, on how to fix that issue with the whole pinging between the work VLAN and the VLANs in the switch. Just because, like I said, I have IoT, I have a Wi-Fi guest, and I have a work computer, so that, you know, whenever I'm at home working, like I've been doing this week for training, and also with my wife, because she works from home and stuff like that. I'm just trying to secure everything, because I know her computer's got stuff that monitors her activities and stuff, and I don't know what all that does, and I don't want it creeping out on my network and shit. And I'm like, no, you don't need to know what the fuck all's on my stuff. You know? I mean, that's just the way I feel. It's like, you know, I ran over a cord. Try not to smash a cord, because I need it. I mean, I respect companies' things. It's their property. It should be used for their work business and everything. And I respect that totally. But my network, whether I'm running all this gear or not, no, you don't need access to it. You don't need to be able to creepily, crawlily scan. It's bad enough Microsoft does that, and the government and everything else. But I hope that helps anybody. I will probably try to find a link to the Reddit post that talked about it. And I'll post it in the comments so that you can read it, and it'll go into a little bit more in depth about it. But that is how I fixed the whole situation. And like I said, if you want to do inter-VLAN routing, if you have a layer 3 switch of Ubiquity with a pfSense router, that's how you would do it. And most of that, but like I said, if you also have VLANs in pfSense and you don't want to put them on your switch and then have to figure out, because like I said, I mean, I'm running Active Directory, and I don't want any extra attack surfaces than I already have with just using Microsoft. So hope that helps. As I always like to say, have a good day, guys. Take care, and see you next time.